What's up, kittens? Welcome back to another Operation Unbothered. Thank you for always choosing to spend your time here with me, exploring this multidimensional experience. It's a journey, it's illuminating, it's a process of recognizing oneself and nourishing the soul while awakening from one's spiritual amnesia. Starting off with A Course in Miracles. Miracle Principle 48 states, "The miracle is the only device which you have at your immediate disposal for controlling time. Only revelations transcend it, having nothing to do with time at all." And it continues with, "After the separation, needs became the most powerful source of motivation for human action. All behavior is essentially motivated by needs, but behavior itself is not a divine attribute. The body is the mechanism for behavior. Nobody would bother even to get up and go from one place to another if he did not think he would somehow be better off." I was recently watching an episode of Lisa Bilyeu's YouTube channel, Women of Impact, and she was interviewing Layla Hormozi. I think I said that right. I was unfamiliar with Layla or her husband Alex's endeavors and was grateful to listen to her experiences of disharmony with alcohol and the consequences of such behaviors. Lisa asked Layla how she was able to create the discipline, mindset shifts, and habits to reach her current self's level of success, and she mentioned she had a high tolerance for frustration. This piqued my interest because although I could hypothesize what a high tolerance for frustration is, I was unaware that in the psychology literature there was a term called low frustration tolerance, or LFT. I was shook and immediately wanted to learn more and where I was on the frustration spectrum. The American Psychological Association, or APA, defines frustration tolerance as the ability of an individual to delay gratification or to preserve relative equanimity when encountering obstacles. The growth of adequate frustration tolerance generally occurs as part of a child's cognitive and affective development, but may also be strengthened to more adaptive levels later in life through therapeutic interventions. I was like, okay, this is interesting, especially because this was something that I had not ever dived into, so I was very excited to do the research for today to share out of what I learned. Okay, what does it look like to have a low frustration tolerance? In an article by BetterUp.com, they provided 7 examples that relate to possibly having a low frustration tolerance. 1, you're easily irritated or angry when things don't happen the way you want them to. 2, which, by the way, that made me immediately think of my inner child being a brat. 2, you are rigid and inflexible with plans or ways of doing things. Makes me think of some people that I've traveled with before where if anything goes wrong, it's like, a disaster, instead of, just riding that wave of the adventure is really beginning now. 3, you lose patience easily with others and even yourself. Been there, done that. You are restless, constantly looking for things to do. I am embracing my feminine energy and being in receiving mode. You have a hard time being bored or waiting for things to happen. Honestly, I appreciate those moments of rest and recalibration. 6, you have thoughts of self-harm in reaction to relatively small upsets. This is not my lived experience. However, I do understand that sometimes that is ways that people cope with different experiences in their life. And 7, you have a hard time pursuing anything that doesn't result in immediate gratification. Okay, that's quite a bit to digest. I went through that list and I was very grateful to have the reflection of, as I kind of was interjecting as I was reading, that a lot of those behaviors are past low frequency behaviors. So when I read this article, I was like, okay, all right, I think I might be a little bit, I claim having a high frustration tolerance. So, how to be unbothered and become the type of person that has a high frustration tolerance. Have you ever heard of the Marshmallow test? The premise was to test a child's ability to engage in delayed gratification and then track their accomplishments throughout their lives at different checkpoints. The child was left in a room with one marshmallow, and the directions were that if they waited until the adult came back, that they would be able to get a second marshmallow. Some kids had no chill at all and ate the marshmallow immediately. Others used whatever they could in their toolbox to try to self-regulate, including sitting on their hands. And some children were very patient, and they doubled their blessings by waiting and getting a second marshmallow. At this current time, two things. I linked the video from like 13 years ago down below. And then the other thing is that the literature seems to be in disagreement with how accurate this marshmallow test actually was to have the direct correlation of delayed gratification and then overall accomplishments in life. Feel free to Google it. I'm just using this because in my universe, I liken the marshmallow test to source and the universe's way of navigating the secular world and my manifestations. So frequently in the past, I was all about the instant gratification. What can I get now? How much can I get of it? And when is more on its way? Oftentimes, that actually diluted the experience, as once I had something, it wasn't long before I was scouting out the next I want, I need it, person, item, experience, or thing. Now as I have matured in my spiritual and energetic understanding, I use the marshmallow test as a mantra. The universe is coming back with something twice as nice for me, so long as I'm obedient and intentional in my actions, feelings, and reactions. The first step in being unbothered by the external experience is deciding that the only behavior and mindset one can change is their own. Then committing to the identity that indeed I am a person with a high frustration tolerance level. Finally, prepare for the universe to provide you with ample opportunities to be the person that you say you are, a person with a high frustration tolerance. Use this as data points that you are the person that you say that you are. Your behavior, your mindset, your self-coping strategies align with your highest frequencies. Pause and consider before reacting. Linda Esposito, licensed clinical social worker, wrote an article for Psychology Today, 10 questions to pause and consider the next time your bodysuit begins signaling there could be disharmony with your emotional, psychological, or spiritual self. 1. What is my body trying to tell me? 2. On a scale 1 to 10, how angry do I feel? 3. What would happen if I didn't give in to these feelings and choose to sit down for 5 minutes and accept this discomfort? Oof, that's one that I continue to work on, of being able to just be in those discomfort moments without trying to numb out with either eating or even like binging on YouTube, just really being like, okay, this too shall pass. 4, can I close my eyes and practice slow, deep breathing until I feel calmer and in control? 5, is there another way to look at this situation and gain a more realistic perspective? Which, I love that one, of it takes a lot of cognitive energy to actually be able to step outside of the experience. However, I think that's really about being unbothered, of even if something is happening, being able to, and I think that also loops back into the whole forgiveness of just because something's happening does not equate to that having to be what is actually causing me to change how I'm feeling. I can feel how I want to feel and react to how I want to feel. So I, in my higher frequency, choose to be unbothered. Period. 6, if I react now, will I be using my rational mind or my impulsive irrational mind? Is my behavior aligned with my values? Does this situation have to be resolved now, or is it possible to wait 24 hours to make a decision? Which I love that one too, because sometimes I want to if I feel like I want to angry text someone, or again, that's me being outside of my high frequency, if that impulse is there, knowing that I can always just text whatever I want to text into a note. And if I really want to say something, it doesn't have to be that. However, I know that I've allowed my inner child, I've allowed whatever representative that is coming up that wants to protect me or defend me or vindicate me in whatever way, is able to get out what it needs to get out, so I'm not holding that sort of energy in my body. 9, am I procrastinating because I don't want to deal with this problem? Hi, my name is Princess and I am a procrastinator. I'm working on it. 10, are these choices responsible or will I regret them down the line? A video from a few days ago from Spiritual Dive opened up with this. However, from our earliest days, we are bombarded with the persistent notion of insufficiency, leading us to pursue external desires and illusory dreams. This evasive illusion casts its effects over our lives, forcing us to perpetually look outside of ourselves all of the time, involuntarily ignoring the abundant tools already nestled in the sanctuary of our being. Just going to pause so that I can kind of settle in. Because all that I need, I have inside of me. All the resources that I need, I have inside of me. Everything I need, I've already come here stocked with these things into this earthside dimension. It's just that experience of awakening and remembering that internally through source and divine alignment, I have all that I need. Self-awareness and a commitment to your highest frequency self are necessary to ensure the alignment to being a person with a high frustration tolerance manifests internally and externally in the way which one engages with their external universe. That was like a little choppy. I'm gonna rewind and say that one more time. Self-awareness and a commitment to your highest frequency self are necessary to ensure the alignment to being a person with high frustration tolerance, which manifests internally and externally in the way in which one engages with their external and internal universe. Intentional transition to the person I say I am. Study notes ABA defines frequency as a type of measurement where you just count every response, also known as count. This tells us how often a behavior occurs. We can also use this measurement to determine rate, which is frequency divided by time. So, frequency. Let's consider how many times a day, a week, a month that the feeling of being frustrated arises. For me, I have minimal experiences now that I have with being frustrated because I have committed myself to a life of peace. How to help yourself moving from low frustration tolerance to a high frustration tolerance. Smart Recovery provides 3 domains to consider when decreasing the frequency of low frustration tolerance behaviors. The first domain is cognitive. One example of a technique they provide is distracting technique. When you recognize you are experiencing frustration, consider alternative activities that will change your focal point away from the frustration experience to something that will support you in self-regulating. Consider going for a walk, listening to music, or coloring. I love coloring. It's like, bring back the coloring. More and more and more. Behavioral. Modeling. Do you know someone that has a high frustration tolerance? If you don't know anyone personally, can you find a book or TV character or a YouTuber that already has the skills you are manifesting? Consider, how would they act in the situation to expand your mind to alternative options of navigating a frustrating situation? Emotive. Unconditional self-acceptance, which I also love that the acronym is USA. Like any new skill, there is the initial stages of acquisition and retention. Giving oneself space and grace and acknowledgement when the intention is there, the effort is there, and whether or not it goes exactly as planned, having a newfound sense of awareness to reflect and plan differently with the future is what James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, says: improve one thing by 1%, because small changes over time equal exponential impact. Decreasing the frequency of low frustration behaviors, mindsets, and reactions will require being completely unbothered to the external world. A full commitment to oneself and a plan of action for when things start to feel overwhelming. Neville Goddard says, everyone is you pushed out, meaning that when engaging with others, they are reflecting back or mirroring back your internal energetics. Therefore, consider, what can you do now internally to manifest in the energetic reflections of a person that has high frustration tolerance? In conclusion, this is a process. Give yourself space and grace as you are repotted like baby Groot and are learning how to navigate this new energetic self both internally and externally. Figure out supportive, high-frequency alternative activities to self-regulate when you realize you have a reaction to something either internally or externally that begins to bring up your frustration level or that representative that wants to feel frustrated. The universe is going to give you the opportunities you need to go from consciously choosing to have a high frustration level to having it be who you are, a person who has a high frustration level. With that, everyone, I wish you a grand rising, a grand afternoon, a grand evening, wherever you are in the world. Blessings and abundance, love and light to all, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.